What is going on YouTube? My name is Edgar. We are here today, tonight, this morning, whatever, at Trinity Pro Scooters in Sacramento, California. Today's video is just kind of simple, going over wheel sizes, preference on wheels, as well as what to look for to make sure that your wheels are compatible if you choose to go to a different size. At the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, this is all preference. There's no such thing as one wheel technically being better than the other wheel. It's all preference. With that being said, some wheels are up for debate, whether or not a wheel will dehub faster or slower. Once again, all preference and all in how you land. But let's go into some of the wheel sizes we have here with us today. First, 110. 120 by 24 and 120 by 30. Now, in scootering, there are multiple different sizes of wheels. I understand there are 12 standard by 125 by 120 by 115, whatever. This is the very fundamentals of 3 different wheel sizes and why you would potentially choose one over the other. So first, starting out from 110s. So when scootering first started, it was 100 mils plastic cores, mainly from Razor, from Micro, from JD Bug, all of those other companies. From there, they upgraded wheels in scootering to a company called Yak Wheels. Yak Wheels was really with it, pushing scootering. Then came arguably Proto, Eagle, all of those guys came around the same time. But I would argue the #1 best scooter wheel in the whole game from personal preference is Proto. First of all, US made, based out of California. Everything is sourced and made in the US. Not only one of the very first aftermarket scooter wheels, they come in 2 different types of urethane. So urethane, or PU, there's 88A, 89A, 87, blah, blah, blah. These are talking about hardness in wheels. So if you look at these 2 wheels, even though they look the same, the exact same colorway, one has silver writing, the other one has gold. One's a slider, one is a gripper. Grippers tend to be softer. It's a softer compound, and it gives you a little more grip while carving, being in the streets, anything a little more jagged, that takes care of it. From there, up next is the sliders. Sliders is a harder wheel. They slide, right? The good thing with these guys, a lot of people who tend to ride street try to go more towards the slider, when in reality, as I said at the beginning of this video, it's preference. Almost every single signature Proto wheel is a gripper. So a lot of these street guys riding their favorite Proto rider signature wheel is actually a gripper rather than a slider. So ultimately, the difference in PU is very minuscule, but you can feel it. That's essentially the sum of all this. The next size up is 120 by 24. So when I'm saying by 24, I am talking about the diameter of the core of the wheel, right? Because this is 120 mils, but it's 24 as well on the center, and 8 mils on the bearing, so regular size bearing, and then 24 on the center of the core size, and then just your standard wheel. After that, you got your 120 by 30. The big difference with this guy, obviously, is the 30, right? But the beautiful thing about this guy is he is 24 on the inside. So just like this wheel and just like this wheel, they will match all of these decks exactly the same. Now, with that being said, this one is 30 wide, so you have to make sure that your compatibility with your other components come into play, right? And same with this one. You want to make sure you have clearance on your fork and on your brake. When you look at your forks or your decks, There are some things you want to look for. First, if you look at a regular standard fork, there is no way that this fork can fit a 30 wide wheel. I would argue this fork can't even fit a 115 millimeter high wheel, where this fork, on the other hand, fits every sized wheel. Made by the same company, right? But one is 12 standard. 12 standard fits more than even 30 because 12 standard is talking about the actual diameter of the bearing itself. So it's a 12 millimeter rather than an 8. So he tends to be a lot thicker. You go faster. You have a larger bearing. So ultimately, you will go faster. A bigger wheel makes you go faster as well. A wider wheel gives you more grip, right? But as you see, even down to this axle, if you look at this axle versus this one right here, you'll definitely see the difference. You will absolutely see the difference between the axles in the not only in the size of the axle, but this is also putting into consideration the diameter of the bearing. Diameter bearing that's regular, 12 standard. Other than that, other than the center of the core, the bearing size, this 30 by 120 is the exact same dimension, minus bearings, than the 12 standard wheel, like your Calypso if they come in 120 by 30. The big thing is going to be the inside of the wheel, right? The diameter of the bearing, and how big your axle is going in there. So always remember, when you want to get a bigger wheel, you have compatibility on not only the fork, but the deck too. Here's something to look at. This is just a regular Wise Nova deck, right? With the Wise Nova decks, it's a standard dropout. So just your regular wheel can fit in here. This brake is only meant for a 110. You can tell by how the brake is angled. It's not going to fit anything more than a 110. So standard inside, standard brake. These spacers are just your regular spacers that come with your deck. This is a telltale sign that your scooter will not be compatible with 30 mil or 120. When you go down to something like the Jake Sorensen deck by Aztec, he comes with two different types of spacers, one of which being your basic ones. So, like your TSI wheel, can absolutely fit in here. And then there are other wheels on the market that are 30 on both sides. So even though the diameter of the axle is still the same, the inside is no longer 24. It would match mirror image to how wide it is on the outside of the wheel. So with that being said, you have a different set of spacers to make sure that it's all compatible. This deck is compatible with everything, well, technically even 12 standard if you finagle it. But I kind of don't like to finagle things, so let's just say everything but 12 standard to be on the safe side, or at least until Aztec will drop a 12 standard conversion kit if they choose to do so. But with that being said, just the sheer hole on this deck is not big enough to fit a 12 standard. So a deck that will is from the company that created 12 standard to begin with, Ethic. So Ethic, all of their decks, all their newer decks come stock with already a 12 standard axle put in place. So remember, even though this will come with spacers to run your regular 24, you won't have an axle that's 24. This is the only axle that comes with the deck, and it's 12 standard. On that same note though, your regular sized axle will fit in this because the majority of these decks are the same lengthwise when you're talking about axle length. The only time that'll really make a difference is if the deck is like this, a pointed end. That is when axle length is really crucial. But when it's a square dropout deck, you can get away with quite a bit more axle length. But yeah, that's essentially it. That covered everything for you guys. from the difference in size of forks to different sizes in wheels to compatibility with decks. So yeah, that essentially wraps it up. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you felt like any of this information was useful to you, please share this video. Please send it to all of your friends, post it on social media. Please like and subscribe to us on social media, on YouTube. And most importantly, don't forget to shop rider owned. We are the only rider owned scooter shop in Northern California, and supporting us is supporting scootering. So with that being said, you guys have a fantastic day. Keep on pushing, and we'll see you guys soon.